back with a very informative conversation with John C. McGinley, who's here, and also Dr. Lawrence Pirro, who we're talking about integrated families and those who are working, you know, have special needs and typical children. How do you, my question to you is balancing it and not making your typical children feel like they're not getting the attention and the love they deserve when you really are asked to you know, give so much to special needs.
Well, an interesting thing that I shared with Dr. Pirro the other day occurred to me was why not talk to the client? In this case, the client being the child. And the Jersey eyes in the back of my head just rolled backwards, thinking of my parents asking me. But what if a parent were to ask someone, how am I parenting? What am I doing great? Where are we failing here? Where am I failing you? And I thought that would be a really interesting place to start, because as we were talking, if you do have two parents who are working two 50-hour-a-week jobs, and to presume that they're going to read a 500-page book about parenting is folly. So what if we break it down to its simplest component and suggest that you ask the child, how am I parenting? Or ask, if you have the spine, ask your wife, what am I doing right with the kids? What am I doing wrong? And then ask the guy in the mirror. And if you took those three pretty simple steps, I guarantee you'd be provided with some input that might be really useful.
And did you do that? I
did it with my 5-year-old the other day, Billy Grace. And so my suggestion you might want to raise the age level, but I asked Billy Grace, what am I doing that maybe not so great with you, Billy Grace? And she said, well, you don't pick us up at school enough. And I said, yes, I do. I pick you up at school every single day. She goes, yeah, but sometimes when you do and you put Kate's seatbelt on wrong, the 3-year-old, she goes, that makes us laugh for about a week and a half. I said, you little Irish rascal, you just structured a 2-stage joke to crush me. So the question might be more salient to an older population, maybe 6 or 7.
One of the things that's really important is that family time with a special needs child becomes dominated by that child often, because they can't always control what they're doing or what they want. So the other children feel like family time becomes about the one child. So it's really important to schedule individual time with your other children. That's a very important part, I think, of creating this symmetry and this balance. So they feel like they have the parents all to themselves for a period of time, which I think helps to get rid of resentment toward the special needs child.
Well,
I couldn't agree more.
You have your wife who is the step parent to Max.
Yes.
And how do you incorporate, I don't, for lack of a better word, rules, or how you speak to the child or incorporate the child? How does she fit into all of this?
They're best friends and they love each other profoundly, and so that mitigates any kind of hijinks that you can imagine. And so one way that we find some balance in the family is that if we are going down to the beach or the playground or the trampoline, or if we're going on a nature walk, even if you don't want to come, you're coming. You're coming. You're coming with your sisters, or your sisters come with Max. We're going. And I don't give a hoot we're going together. And then all of a sudden, once you get off your can and you start walking, or you work down on the trampoline, and we realize what's dangerous on the trampoline, or we're hitting baseballs, or now guess what? You forgot that you didn't want to come. Now we're doing this. We're in this.
Right.
And it's not a burden. You've been included. You've been invited. This is not, you're not shouldering some burden.
You brought up something that, you know, you talked about, if you have the spine to look to your wife and say, how am I doing as a parent and whatnot. You know, that communication that goes on, I imagine, I go home, I host a talk show. I just want to shut down, be alone, and not talk. You have to not only communicate and ask those really tough questions, you have to you talk about over-communicating, right?
Yes.
Define what that means, and then, as you said, you have to have the spine to ask those tough questions.
Well, in other words, since Max can't advocate for himself, sometimes with the children, I might have to advocate for him. And so I might have to present to Billy Grace and Kate that when he gets upset because the dogs are barking and now he's barking, or he's hitting himself, I have to now explain to him, since Max can't, what's going on. And they then willingly give Max a wide berth. They just give him a little more space. Great. That's their reaction to the conflict, which is great. And that's what Max wants. He wants just a little space.
Do you sit down as a family, or did you suggest to sit down as a family to discuss how his reactions affect their lives? Because they're little kids. They're 5 and
we don't discuss their reactions as much as
their feelings.
Well, because they're manifested in fear, then that has to be accounted for and honored, and it's not nothing. And so now we have to find out how we can allay your fears.
The most important thing in that regard, though, is realizing that it's developmental for a child to be able to put themselves in someone else's position, right? That comes fairly late in the development of a child. And so the other children can't really understand why this bad behavior is ruining their family outing, because they don't really understand the underlying thing. So I think
what do you do as a parent?
Is to really try to understand the reason Max is shouting or hitting himself or whatever is because the dog was barking and that scares him. So what we're going to do is go put the dog away, and then Max will be happy again, and we can return to our family outing, instead of, you know, the kind of punitive kind of feeling that comes from that.
What do you do with these children as they grow up so they don't resent the person who's getting all the attention, or because this is just disrupted our life, and I don't understand what's going on, and they have fear and they have anger. How do you avoid that?
To me, I think so far what's worked for us is to invite or include them into being problem solvers, a la Billy Grace brushing Max's hair, so that Max is not your burden, he's your brother. And you, would you please go put the dog away so that you can be part of the solution? Right. That would be great if you'd put the dog in the garage. Oh my gosh, you've now been an essential part of solving this. How great.
I want to give you just a chance to talk about the global Down syndrome that you're so passionate about, this organization. How is this giving you a more proactive approach to
things? The Global Down Syndrome Foundation, which is a group based in Denver, and I serve on their board. The big difference between the Global Down Syndrome Foundation and a lot of other groups who work on advocacy and inclusion is they're mostly medical. They're mostly doing research, and they're rolling their sleeves up, and they're getting dirty by including people into a medical process, and not necessarily solutions, since it's not a disease, but in diet. Since iron is poison for kids with whose 21st chromosome triples, do families know that? No, they should know that. Come in, we can work with your diet. 1,000 different medical approaches is what the Global Down Syndrome Foundation's approach is, and I really love that.
Well, I want to say we have to go to commercial. There's so much material here to delve into, but I want to take a second and tell you, as a father, I watch what you do, how involved. You haven't run from this. You have faced the challenges head on, and you've done such a remarkable job embracing the knowledge and taking your celebrity and making a difference.
I just wanted to tip
my hat at you, John. There should be more men like you, fathers, who step up to it. Thank you so much. By the way, more information on the Down syndrome, globaldownsyndrome.org is available on our website. Special message from John is waiting on our Twitter page at Home and Family and TV, and you can also follow John on Twitter at John C. McGinley. Also, please, we want to invite you, we didn't get a chance to mention it, but Ground Floor season finale is tonight on TBS, 10 o'clock, 9 Central.
Season 1 finale.
Season 1 finale.
All right. Coming up, Erica Domacek is founder of P.S. I Made This, will show us how to make designer accessories for less when we come back.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.